Good evening, everyone. This is Ravi Gupta. I am CEO and founder of Illets Technomedia Private Limited, and we have been working in the field of education for last 17 years. We have been bringing out a magazine called Digital Learning, which has been talking about innovation in education. And we have done more than 300 conferences all over the country in more than 100 cities inside India and outside India. And today we are joined by an eminent speaker. She is Dr. Pallavi Rao Chaturvedi. She is Executive Vice President of ISEC Group, and she is an expert on the child issues, children's happiness issues, and she's also founder of Brainy Beer Preschools. So welcome, Dr. Pallavi, on this show of Illets. Thanks for joining in.
Thank you, Dr. Ravi. It's always a pleasure. I've been to several Illets and digital learning conferences, and it's lovely to be here as well.
Thank you so much. So, Pallavi, before we start and get into the more technical issues, I will request you to give an introduction about yourself, about your education and your career, so that our audience gets an idea about whom they are talking to today. Yeah.
Sure. I would love that. Hello to everybody logging in, and I hope all of you are safe along with your families, along with your children, your employees, and everybody. Indeed, introduction of myself, you know my name already. I'm Dr. Pallavi Rao Chaturvedi. I have a PhD in women entrepreneurship, so I'm not a doctor. I want to clear that. I'm a chemical engineer. I'm an MBA from SP Jain. And we are actually a group of, educationists in our family. We run the ISEC group of universities. We have about 5 universities across the country by the name of Rabindranath Tagore University, Dr. C.V. Raman University, and ISEC University. We also run a chain of preschools. And we do a lot of work in financial inclusion and skill development. So that is how we know, Raviji for several years, more than a decade now. And it's been a pleasure associating with Illets. But today I'm here in a very different capacity. And, while, we've been listening to amazing webinars on how to transform our businesses, how to, what the post-COVID-19 situation will be, go back to being what the old normal will be and all of that. Today, I actually want to discuss you as a parent, and because, while we all have our professional personas, at the end of it, all of us who have children are parents at the heart of it while we are at home. And I think that's the side I want to appeal to today for everybody, parents, and, discuss about children. And, I'm also the vice president of the Early Childhood Association for a couple of years now. And that's the hat I'm wearing today, Dr. Ravi.
Great. Fantastic, Dr. Pallavi. You have had a broad range of experiences in broad range of industries. You have worked broad range of sectors, and you are also talking today as a parent. So let me ask you the first question. Now, in this situation of the COVID-19, where there is a lockdown, children are stuck at home and parents are stuck at home. Perhaps for the first time, both children and parents are stuck at home together.
Yes.
Because whenever there is a holiday, like everyone wants to go out. So people are going out in the malls or the movies or going out like somewhere else.
Exactly.
But staying at home, sitting at home and seeing each other like every day together for 24 hours is a different experience altogether.
It is.
Right? And sometimes the parents are frustrated, sometimes the children are frustrated. So tell me, as a early childhood expert, that how you think that this situation should be handled.
Right, right. I think that's a very valid question that you have raised, and I want to share a screen with you, which actually shows that parents are feeling like they're burning from both ends of the candle. And we are trying to engage our kids, we're trying to involve them. There are so many online assignments. Everybody's made their list of Google activities. At the same time, we're also trying to work in a very new environment today. We're trying to deal with technology, we're trying to deal with how our employees, how our workforce everywhere, how our colleagues are working. So it is a very, very unique situation. And, I want to draw back to the point that if we as parents are feeling overwhelmed, we have to take a minute to understand how overwhelming this is for little children, right? They are also feeling the heat of burning from both ends because they get a lot of schoolwork, though they don't get the fun of school. This is not summer vacation. There are no vacations. There's no movie outings. There's no trips to Dada Dadi house jaise hote the. There is none of the holiday feel. At the same time, they're also getting parents 24/7 and the expectation of parents. So children and parents are both locked in a very anxious situation right now. There is a lot of anxiety. And, we have to acknowledge that it is not just us who are feeling the anxiety, it is also children. So, children cannot probably, especially younger children under the age of 8 or 9, may not be able to express completely how this anxiety is, falling on them, how they're able to deal with it. But we have to remember, schools shut down the first. When, the crisis hit India, schools shut down the first. And even though we are hearing about how sectors, the essential sectors and, some important offices will start opening up, we have to remember educational institutions, be it preschools, be it schools, be it universities, are going to open the last. So pretty much children and preteens and teens are going to be locked at home for the maximum number of days, months. So we have to empathize with that situation. And it is not about high productivity right now. It is not. That's the first point I want to make.
So many parents are worried about education right now.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Schools have started online classes. So there is a class happening online. So home work is also being assigned now.
Yes.
What has to be the priority of the kid, right? Is the school, is the homework, or having some fun activity? And children are spending so much time on screen because of school and also for the fun. So how do you handle that?
Yeah. So I think, Dr. Ravi, you have raised 4 or 5 questions in one question. So I'll take it a bit at a time so that our audience gets the clarity. The first thing is that during a lockdown, we all have to remember as parents that this is a pressure of a different type. Yes, there is no normal work. There are no normal exams to worry about. No child is getting up at 5 o'clock. But we have to remember that this is also not a school setting. So while people have been using the word homeschooling, it is like homeschooling, it is not homeschooling. So the environment of learning is the home. And I want to tell all parents that for too long, we have kind of assumed the school to be the primary source of learning, right? But if we go back into our roots, and if you look at a lot of Western concepts of learning, the emphasis of the home is very important. Our old methods of Indian learning also prescribe that, and so do the Western methods. So first of all, I want to say that it is a beautiful time for parents to actually understand the strengths and weaknesses of their child and understand that there is so much learning that can happen at home, which is not only the absolutely book and pen method or the textbook method of learning. There is life skills which have to be explored in the daily humdrum of life. No, most children don't know how food is landing on their table. Most children don't know how clothes magically appear in their cupboards. Most children don't have not inculcated reading skills. A lot of children have avoided, building up on, a little bit of exploring nature around them. So this is a beautiful, right? And I also want to say that while online learning has a lot of merits, so for example, even children, toddlers, or even children at 6 or 7 or 10, when they play on online apps and they play some games, there's a lot of learning actually happening, right? So there is hand-eye coordination happening. It is multisensorial in nature. It's visual, it's auditory. So when you have multisensory learning, the retention is much higher. So there is a lot of pluses of technology. But if we are saying children have to be glued to the screen, listening to a teacher for 5-6 hours in a row, that I doubt whether the learning outcomes are going to be effective, right? Because children by nature are playful. They learn through play. And I'm not necessarily talking about, children who are, say, 8th standard plus or 9th standard plus are understand the need of education, and they have made it their responsibility. So they have greater sitting capacities post 9th standard or 10th standard. In fact, I think a lot of children prepare for, their entrance exams, children in 11th and 12th. So they are in a very different mindset. But if I talk about primary, middle school children and toddlers, they learn through fun and learning. So my appeal, I'm also an educator, and my appeal to schools everywhere has been break it up into small modules of say 20-30 minutes. A child cannot be glued to the screen and watch, and a teacher cannot assume that it is 100% retention. And while parents, I get a lot of calls, I do radio shows every day on how to deal with stress of online anxiety for children. If parents can maybe after every half an hour, a child takes a walk, has a healthy snack. We mix it up with a little bit of physical activity. All of this is very, very critical. And if the school is sending an assignment, that is the best thing, and they're not doing online classes. A lot of schools are not doing it for less than 3rd standard. I think that is perfect, because the children, children are in touch with what the school wants to do, the prescribed curriculum. They're doing a few pages every day. That is great to keep in touch. But learning, we try and see how to take it offline. And for the older children, we want to try and see how to maybe break it up into chunks of learning and not overload them, because at the end of the day, this blue light is very, very harmful. And what we don't want as a post-COVID scenario is we are dealing with more and more, children eating because they're bored. Blue light also, kind of triggers appetite. Sleep cycles are, disturbed. So, we try and see how to keep screen at a minimum as much as possible.
Great. And how do you see the activities which the children can do and learn something inside the house?
Yeah, so I think this is the time. So 2 points I want to make here. When we say parents and when we say the primary onus of learning, by default, somehow it has become the mother's role. And I want to appeal especially here to all the fathers that, if there was a time for co-parenting and stepping up and being an equal parent in the house, that time is now. That is the first point I want to make. Second thing is, I think there's a lot of resources which are available. You need not look for your traditional books as sources of learning. Learning can come even out of the kitchen. So to all parents here, I run a YouTube channel called Get Set Parent with Pallavi. And that is where I actually show parents how so many things can be done at home. For example, if you want to teach math to school-going children, introduction of math concepts to, toddlers, it's unbelievable how much you can do from your kitchen. For example, you mix a variety of ingredients. You can teach them sorting. You can teach them sequencing. You can teach them pattern formation. A lot of fine motor skills for younger children can be developed when they need dough. that actually is pre-writing skills. A lot of parents tell me at 5 or 6 that their children don't like writing, their fingers pain. That's because finger muscles haven't been developed. So, for example, if you have pastas at home or beads and you take a string, so beading activities, an amazing amount of concentration required, focus required, and it builds your finger muscle control as well. So these are some of the things that that can be done. Weights and measurements, exploring different lengths. So many things can be done, ascending order, descending order, all of these things for toddlers. So these are a variety of activities which can be done. For older children, I think involving them in activities as, treating them like adults, maybe figuring out science experiments using ingredients that you have at home. That is an amazing activity. And somehow I think, a lot of parents, I did an episode also on reluctant readers. So all parents want to say that their children are avid readers. There is a large majority of children who don't like reading, and I think if a child loves reading, there's so much is accomplished by that. Because your imagination, the world that you're transported to, your vocabulary, your reading and writing are complementary skills. And a better reader performs much better in all the other subjects in school. So I think math concepts, reading concepts, and life skills, if parents can very seamlessly use stuff at home, this is what parents can do. See what the school is doing. I'm not undermining what school is doing. School is anyway giving you the structured approach. School is giving you the assignments. School is giving you the worksheets. So while you do that, how to make it fun is how you try and bring out the creativity at home. So there are hundreds of things which can be done.
Perfect. Exactly. So there are enough activities happening in the house. Many times the children are not involved by their parents.
Yes.
There are there is a situation in most of the cities that right now maids are not available.
Yes.
Servants are not available, and this becomes perhaps another opportunity for engage the kids in the household activities.
Absolutely. And one of the things I always believe in, and I want to tell all the listeners here today, is that children love routine. Children don't like surprises. Children don't like to get up one morning and not know what is happening. So if you are able to draft a small routine for the family, it could be a 1-week routine. This will really help children because that's how they know what is expected out of them. What should they do so that the parents are not shouting at them the whole day, right? If they know that setting the table is my job, children take a lot of pride in it. If they know that, folding my bed sheet, getting things ready, arranging my little brother or little sister's books, helping clean up all the toys is their responsibility, children do it with a lot of pride. At least the older ones. I'm not talking about babies and toddlers. But, primary school children, middle school children, this is a fantastic opportunity for us to teach them what is their role in the family. And, and that's very important to, strengthen the feeling of belonging and feeling of pride and importance. They feel very accomplished. So, so that's one of the things that I would recommend is creating a schedule where when is their academic time, when is their physical activity time, skipping, hopscotch, running around, some gross motor skills. I share a lot of these videos on my Facebook page on Get Set Parent as well. When is their reading time? One more thing which is very important is unstructured playtime, right? And this is important even for preteens, even up to the age of 14 or 15, unstructured time. So we don't want to dictate every minute of the day to them. We have to remember we're not running, we're not an army sergeant here, and they're not our soldiers. So they're not going to want to listen to you if you're going to tell them every minute, ye karna hai, wo karna hai, wo karna hai. They're not going to listen. So what you want to do is make sure that you have 1 or 2 hours in the day where they decide what they want to do, as long as it is not screen time. So some child might want to read, some child might want to do painting, some child might want to just, fiddle around with, maybe a jigsaw puzzle. Some child might want to, maybe do a little bit of gardening in the small kitchen garden. So allow them to decide what they can do also in some parts of the day. Very, very important.
Very important, yes. And many children are very much not happy in the house. Some are like always wanted to go out. They feel suffocated.
Yes.
And some children get irritated in the house. So how do we handle those types of things?
Yeah. No, Dr. Ravi, that's a very, very huge concern for parents today. Anxiety is a very broad word. And, if we feel that our children are getting very stubborn, they're getting very disobedient, they're not listening to us, they're crying a lot, tantrums, crankiness, we have to appreciate the fact that all of this is coming because of the change in lifestyle. They're not used to being locked down the whole time. So it is not because they want to disobey you. It is not because they are disrespecting you. Please empathize with them. This pushback is coming because they don't know how to deal with this emotion. Children by nature are outdoor creatures. They like to play in the evenings. They like to, they like to meet their friends. Imagine children are used to spending 8 to 9 hours with children of their age group. The conversations, the jokes, the level of interaction is very developmentally essential. Children are very social beings. Now, when you remove all of that, we land in a situation where we are seeing claustrophobia. We are seeing only one part, that they want to go out. But there are all of these other factors which are kind of coming in, and we need to empathize with that. So 2 or 3 all, whatever fresh air time you can give them is very important. So if you have an apartment where you're allowed to go down, if you have a terrace they can go up and play on, if you have a garden patch, please give them enough. It is getting very hot. It is going to be summer. We're almost on the brink of summer, but late evenings, early mornings, whatever vitamin D they can get during the mornings and fresh air time, it has a very therapeutic effect. That is very important. Second thing, if you can give them water time. I always say this, that water has a huge therapeutic effect on children, on adults as well. It kind of rejuvenates everybody. So for young children, sensory play in a small bucket of water, 1 or 2 hours, they will be engaged. The season is perfect. Allow them to do a little bit of that. And the third thing I would talk about is be the parent who is there to listen to them, right? Yes, school is saying do all of this. Yes, we also want them to do activities. Yes, we want them to do many things. It is our expectation, but it is not ideal, right? Children have their own emotions also. They're not robots who will be able to follow every instruction. Please listen to them. They might want to talk to you. See, every time you are seeing a WhatsApp message on some new coronavirus death, every time you're seeing breaking news on TV, all of this subconsciously is creating a negative ambience in the house. And we as parents have to really filter that information. Like in my house, I have an 8-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old son. We don't even talk about corona anymore because somewhere this is bothering them. And you do it, as adults, you need to watch news. Do it when they're asleep or do it when they're not around you. But try and be the filter. Creeping to them. Try and provide reassurance. Talk to them and provide a lot of reassurance. As a family, what are you doing? See, they are very concerned right now. What will happen to our parents? What will happen to our grandparents? Are our friends going to die? All these questions are coming to their minds. If you're not allowing too many outside people, you are whatever health and hygiene parameters, talk about as an apartment or as a community what everybody is doing. Talk about what the government is doing to contain the situation. Their anxiety will come down. Also, I would really suggest a lot of, in whatever way possible, children are also restless. A little bit of quiet time, a little bit of prayer, a little bit of meditation, See, there is spiritual and also cling to that. So before sleeping, I would request all parents before sleeping, 15 minutes, calm your child down, maybe say a prayer together, keep everybody safe, do a little bit of quiet meditation. All of these actually drop their anxiety levels. And on the other hand, keep physical energy high. If staircase, 10 times up and down, jumping stairs, skipping, these are all indoor physical activities. These are how endorphins are released. Endorphins have a very positive effect on the mind. Children feel very important. All of these things, I think, will keep claustrophobia, anxiety at bay.
How much emphasis you would like to give for things like art, paintings, craft, dancing, singing?
Yeah. No, I think it's a beautiful time, not just for children, but all of us to pick up those long lost hobbies, and art can done a beautiful job of best out of waste and so many things. As parents, there are so many Pinterest groups, do it yourself YouTube videos. Just leave colors and paper with your children. You'll be amazed. Art is another form of expression, and I would parents also could be vigilant. If it's happy art, if it is sad art, that actually kind of and yes, dancing as a family, put on music and let your children just dance to vent. It's a great physical exercise, and so yes, art, music, dance, any kind of art form, any kind of play, all of this feels productive. It's very engaging. It kind of also kills 2-3 hours of the day. Right, the question is how do you finish the day is also a question, right? See, at the end of the day, Dr. Ravi, what I want to tell everybody is the children also need adequate sleep, right? What you want is that your children are tired, they're exhausted, so that they have a deep 8 to 10 hours of sleep every day. Immunity, one of the basic building blocks of immunity is sleep. So if your children are not tired, if they're watching too much TV, if they have not got enough physical stimulation, if they have not been mentally stimulated by reading, by all of these, they're not going to feel tired. You are tired at the end of the day doing everything, work, kids, everything, but they are not tired. So if they're not tired, they're not going to get good sleep, which is, not a good situation. So yes, I strongly believe that any kind of hobby, you can get a lot of hobby ideas from, a lot of YouTube videos as well these days. And a lot of activities I share, I lockdown, which I've shared on my YouTube channel called Get Set Parent with Pallavi. And below that video, I have given tons of links, a lot of links for sensory activities, physical activities, virtual museum tours, zoo tours, art museums. So a lot of those, I think it's about how much, the parent can spend 4 or 5 hours on a Sunday and draft the schedule for the week. That will really keep you feeling structured.
Yes, I think the very important point which you're mentioning is scheduling. I think the basic issue is that nothing is scheduled. Child wakes up and the child has no idea what he has to do, and that creates a havoc in a way.
Yeah. So in fact, what I recommend, I have another video called How to Make a Timetable. So my recommendation is you create a timetable for 5 days of the week, Monday to Friday. When I say, and Saturday is your buffer day. So obviously you never are able to do 10 on 10 activities. So if you have said, I want to do these activities, 2 pages of painting, 2 pages of math, 2 pages of writing every day, whatever is left. At the end of the week, as a family, you feel very good about the entire thing. The second tip that I want to give on scheduling is the most important task or the most important activity that you believe you want your child to finish, get it done first half of the day before lunch. Because if, for example, if today my task for my child is that I want her to do 4 pages of, say, addition, multiplication, subtraction practice. Now, this is a stress, first of all, in my head. We have to remember all stress is created by the parent and the teacher, right? We are the ones who, first of all, creates the tension for ourselves, then we emanate the tension. So if we know this is the task, we need to do it with the child as soon as we can before lunch. Because what that actually does is, if you have finished it before lunch, your stress is gone. Rest of the day, you can focus on playing Pictionary, Dam Charades, whatever the child wants to do, you know, garden mein ghumna hai, whatever they want to do. But your important task is complete. So the parent and the child are both stress-free, and they're not yelling at each other. They're not screaming at each other. And this yelling and screaming seems to be something which a lot of parents tell me about, that only when I scream, the child listens. That's because somewhere there's a structure missing, or the child feels that, you know, whatever it is, my mom will yell. So those are situations we want to avoid.
What do you think about involvement of child in the kitchen?
Oh, I think it's a lot of fun. It's a lot. Unconsciously, subconsciously learning, right? So kitchen is a fantastic place. And when I say kitchen, I mean children of all age groups. Even a 2-year-old child has fun in the kitchen, right? Children by nature love learning by doing. So for example, toddlers and young children love to help with baking. They love to decorate a small cupcake, love to knead rotis and make different shapes of the rotis, right? Every part of it is an activity, right? Pouring also they like. So these are what, you know, kitchen is a beautiful place to learn so many hands-on skills. So in preschool, we say sandpit mein, we have to teach them pouring, scooping. You can do it in the kitchen. Yeah, sorting, pattern formation, you know, separate all the rajmas, chana. I do it with my 2-year-old boy. I mix rajma, chana, peanuts, give him 3 bowls and tell him to separate. He has a good time doing it. He thinks he's helping me, right? He thinks he's helping me in the kitchen. Like I also said, a lot of measuring activities, a lot of that can be done. You will be surprised how reading can also happen in the kitchen. So for reluctant readers, this is one of the things that I always recommend, that if you are cooking something, ask your child to read you the instructions written at the back of the pack. They think they're helping you, but subconsciously they're reading, right? So when it is not a textbook, see, you have to understand a lot of it is about ambience. When you drag the child to the table, study table, now you sit here, now I'm going to set the clock, you know, ma'am has sent this, do it. There is stress on the child. But in a kitchen environment, everything is diffused. So learning is magnified. When the stress is diffused, learning is magnified. And what actually happens is the child is telling you, you know, mama, you put 4 curry leaves, put 1 teaspoon of rye, put 1 teaspoon of chili powder. They are reading. You'll be surprised that, you know, they're reading and they're helping you. They also get the recipe. Kitchen is a beautiful place. I recommend.
Yeah. So another aspect is this, there are schools which are teaching online, and some of the parents are stressed that teaching is not happening good enough, and it's not structured. And schools also have been got into this situation, lockdown very suddenly. So
abruptly.
So most of them are not prepared. So should parents be stressed, or they should just take it easy? It's okay.
Yeah.
Your opinion?
So see, one of the things I want to say is, if this happened sometime between October and December, the situation would have been very different, because the schools have got into the school term. The parents know what is going on. You have all the books and everybody knows what's going on. We have to understand that this has hit the world, and in India is exactly at our transition time when this has been hit. So teachers have not met their new children. Children have not met their teachers. Many children don't have the books. There is no rapport building. Teachers have not had the time. So I think we all have to give each other a little bit of flexibility and a little bit of leeway. As parents, and I'm here as both sides of the fence. As a parent, I really appeal to all the parents that, teachers are doing their best sitting at home. They have no resources. A lot of them have broadband issues. There are no amazing stationery to make props for children. So teachers are also working in a very constrained environment. This is not an ideal case. And teachers also have to remember that parents are not born teachers. Parents by profession are doing several other things. They are not teachers. So if a teacher is expecting a parent to be a teacher and teach all the concepts, that is also not going to happen. So I think if there was one time in history that parents and teachers truly have to partner together and keep the interest of the heart of the child, that is now, right? Having said that, I think, stress is not going to get us anywhere. And especially if your child is in the lower classes, if your child is in, is a toddler, a preschooler, a primary schooler, a middle schooler, I would frankly say don't stress at all. Even if your child is a high schooler, what are you going to get out of the stress? So there is no need to stress. The quality is compromised in terms of home as not the perfect environment of school type learning. But the advantage is you get a different environment, relationship between parents and children, strength, weakness of the child. You know what? So parents and teachers were relying on the PTM meeting once a quarter, 20 minutes. So parents understand their children through the PTM meeting, which in a way now looks ridiculous. Because now when you're spending time with your child, you understand what are the problem areas. You understand your child is inherently strong in something. So I would say don't get stressed. Yes, you are concerned about the academics and we all should be, but I think when schools reopen, we are all Indians. We know how to bounce back very well. And I think, schools will cover up what is not done. As long as children are not doing board exams, I'm very confident schools will find a way to kind of not maybe cover up, but set the pace, and the next year will probably be an overlap where a lot of concepts will be revised. And, it could be that over 2 years, we cover a lot of the concepts that have happened. And I'm sure between all the educational councils, the boards, there will be a method which will evolve. But right now, I would suggest that all the stress that the school, the online learning, and the parents are putting, at the end of the day, the child is getting affected. So first of all, the more pressure you create on the child, the lesser and lesser and lesser the learning is going to be. So you think you're actually doing a lot of learning, but it is actually counterproductive. So I would say just relax, let your child relax, and you'll be amazed how much, your child will actually emerge stronger at the end of this entire period. And you will as well.
I think what you are saying that, take it easy. Don't worry.
Yeah, don't worry. Take it easy and focus on the core of, reading, on poster making, on, maybe writing a creative story about what they feel right now.
Yes.
Focus on those kind of thinking skills. Focus on thinking, on thoughts, on emotions right now. And rote learning, structured learning, we are all very good at. Our teachers, our students will pick it up. So don't worry. Okay, I also, want to say something to parents here, which will, maybe drop their tension. This is a rule of homeschooling that typically in an 8-hour school day, please listen to me carefully on this. In 8 hours that a child is going to school, there is only 3 hours of academics. Okay? So if you are trying to say that You know, my child used to go to school from 8 to 4 and I'm replicating the day at home. Then you have to give them playtime, give them the lunch break, give them the art time, give them the, you know, walking across the corridors. School has so many of these buffers. Please remember, academics is only 3 hours, and this is also for high school. So in junior classes, if your child is spending 1.5 to 2 hours on academic activity, it is more than enough to reinforce and keep the concept level understanding alive. Rest of it has to be on linking life, love for learning, and let's not, you know, parents and, you know, Dr. Ravi, what I want to say is at the end of the entire thing, we don't want to put our children off completely from learning.
Mhm.
You know, I mean, we are thinking we are doing a lot, but if they get put off, it's very difficult to drag a child back once they are put off.
I think the very important point to mention in that in the school, the
Yeah.
child actually studies academics is only 2 hours or 3 hours at night.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
There, I mean, we don't, we forget to factor in that there are so many other things.
Yes. Yes.
Lunch breaks, loo breaks. There's a lot of break happening.
Yes. So, Dr. Pallavi, there are some messages we have on the chat and also on the
Yes.
Q&A. So let's
I'll just open that.
start with the Q&A.
Sure,
And,
sure, sure.
You can
Okay, I'll
you
start
have
with the
answered
Q&A.
some of it. You have, so let's not like repeat those stuff which you already answered.
Sure, sure. Yeah, so I see a question on children from 9th to 12th, you know, on high school children. So while, you know, preschool and primary school and, you know, middle school, there is no real tension as far as big exams, board exams are concerned. No, see, I definitely think, you know, losing 1 year is a threat that looms large across. But, you know, what I want to say is that it's not only for your child. It is everybody everywhere world over, right? So it is a kind of a leveler. This is not happening to children of a particular school, a particular city. This is happening to children everywhere. So there will be a method to, you know, those methods will get devised in future. But, you know, the future is not going to be lost. You know, I want to tell people that if you have thoughts that 1 year is going to ruin the entire future, it's not going to happen. This is a worldwide phenomena. There is going to be an understanding level at the board level, at the higher institution. So I'm also saying this wearing the hat of the owner of, you know, a group of universities, that universities will also be considerate to the kind of students they take in. There will be online provisions for admissions into universities as well. There will be employers as well who kind of, you know, take this on. So I think across the chain, there will be a kind of leveling that happens. So I don't think, you know, you should worry so much. It's not just your child, it's children across the world. So there will be a method which will evolve in due course.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So very interesting question that for kindergarten children who are from 2 years to 5 years, they're getting suffocated in small, tiny apartments for 24 hours lockdown. Yes. They need to play, they need outdoors, and they need fresh air. I think you have spoken about it, but I think this is very important. I think you should speak again about it. Yeah.
Yes, yes. I think suffocation in tiny apartments is real. We have people from across the country in various places everywhere living in apartments. And like I said, if there is a possibility of a balcony, a terrace, going downstairs during off-peak hours, please make use of that as much as possible to give them that outdoor connect. If not, yeah, you know, if you can open windows and sit near windows for as much time as possible. So see, what magical solution to this, and this will only happen when the lockdown opens. And it is heartbreaking for us to go on telling children that we'll take you to the park. You know, there is, what do we say, next week, next month? We also don't know. So it is definitely a very difficult situation. But, you know, we will have to try and find ways to distract them, focus more on, you know, activities. See, small children, 2 to 5 years, since specifically for this age group, their understanding might be low, but they get distracted also easily. So in this age group, you kind of try and divert their attention to something else that they like, you know, video chat with some favorite cousin, some grandparent, somebody somewhere. And you know, you will be able to figure out that there is a trend. Your child is probably getting cranky at certain hour of the day. So try and schedule something at that time. And, you know, evening times can be a great, you know, a bath time for the child maybe. We will have to kind of really become very creative here. But yes, I really want to acknowledge that it is not easy. It is difficult. Somebody says, do you think physical schools will stop existing? What do you feel, is homeschooling better? So this actually, what, you know, this is opening up a very new style of living for all of us. And, you know, in the West, in Finland, in a large part of Europe, parents choose to homeschool. So in fact, even in America, a lot of parts of the world, parents choose to homeschool because they think that structure works better for them as opposed to a formal school. And there are board exams, you know, there are bridges which kind of connect homeschooled children to, you know, the mainstream later. In India, it is not popular, but I don't know, maybe after this, or maybe the opposite could happen. There will be more schools because everybody wants to. People might be quite done with the entire thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. What problem will teachers face when children return to school? Yes, this is somebody who is written from the educator's point of view. I think as adults, you know, I won't even say whether as principals or parents or teachers, as adults, we have to have patience, immense patience to see them through this lockdown and to reintroduce them back to that situation. So I think what's very important is when children come back to school, we don't, you know, go overboard and say, oh, I have to make up for lost time and, you know, kind of do everything at one shot. Patience, slowly easing them into that, you know, children will take time to settle into the new schedule as well. So this is something that I would say flexibility and slowly easing them, you know, over a couple of weeks. But children will bounce back very quickly. I don't see major, they will be so happy to be back with their teachers and friends. So I don't think we'll have much of a problem there. Okay, how will coronavirus and remote learning affect our pre-primary and primary students? Frankly, I think pre-primary students, online learning won't help. So, you know, we run a chain of preschools as well. And, you know, we figured that asking 2 or 3-year-old children or 4-year-old children to come and sit in front of a Zoom call is just not going to work, because, you know, just because you have decided to do it at that time, they're not going to come. And family routines are different. So what I would say is, if you are preschool owners here, if you are preschool parents, and if you can have a chat with your preschool, I think what works best is maybe, you know, doing a reinforcement of a concept by a teacher on a small video and WhatsApping it to the parent. So based on flexibility of time, a parent can show it to a small child. The second thing with preschoolers and also primary children is they like repetition. So for older children, a Zoom call might work better because they have greater sitting capacity and they can absorb the concept. But for younger children, they might want to see the video again and again and again. You know, so maybe that kind of thing will work better for younger children. Yeah. Will online education be successful across the country? You know, this is again, we are all talking about online because a lot of our people here are clearly on sitting in metros, who have access to broadband, who have access to multiple laptops, multiple smartphones. But this is, you know, we have in India and we have a Bharat. And this is not going to be universally conducive, very, very clearly, right? So there's blended models, or like I said, we have to figure out offline strategies. In fact, I would say that children in completely disconnected by technology are going to feel very disconnected from learning, you know, till they are opened up. But conversely, I think the rural areas of our country are also the safer districts right now, when you look at the map of the corona. So maybe they will open before all of us. So God has his way of evening it out. So maybe they will go to schools before children in metros go to schools.
Yes.
So yeah, there are hundreds of questions here, and
there is a question around online creative classes on dance, singing, drawing.
Yeah.
So is it possible to look at it?
So see, I think it's a very fine line, you know. While there are many, technically, is it possible? Yes. Right. So you can have a music teacher teaching you like we are talking now. Is it possible? Yes. Dance possible? Yes. Art, maybe showing you the tricks. Is it possible? Yes. Maybe doing a story class or a reading class? Yes. Coding class? Yes. Tuition class? Yes. But the point is, at the end of all this, if you're going to do 1 hour of each day, do you want your child to sit for 9 hours in front of the laptop? And then 3 hours of the class teacher coming and talking to the child? So possibility wise, yes. But my recommendation is try and space it out. Maybe just do one thing a day. So there is no fatigue. So there is no excess screen time. And the child looks forward to it. Also, it has to be, the intervals have to be very, very clear. I'm going to open one screen that I have, on what are the limits for screen time which are followed. So maybe you can have a look at that. These are World Health Organization recommended screen limits. Obviously, it is not possible. Yeah. So I'm just going to share this screen. So I don't know if you can see it. Yeah. So if you have a look at the screen, dear parents, you will be able to see that this is the recommendation, right, of how much your child technically should be seeing every day. So now this has chatting time, gaming time, movie time, PlayStation time, everything is in this, including your online music and online dance class. So obviously now this is not during lockdown. Lockdown, there's no way we are going to be able to maintain this. It is going to increase. But the reason I'm showing you this is because you can keep in mind that if 2 to 5-year-old children, they're not supposed to get 1 hour, maybe you go to 1.5 or 2 hours max. It doesn't become 4 hours. Right? So this is something we need to keep in mind, that while the classes and the possibility is there, it is not recommended to do too much every day. And that balancing it out is where the parent has to really take care.
Makes sense. There's an interesting comment by Mala Patel on a chat box.
Okay.
She's saying that my son, who is a 13-year-old, is enjoying online learning and tells me forever that I will learn language.
Yeah.
And no schooling is required now. So what should I do?
Yeah, Mala, I think you have struck, I think all of us have struck on the fact that there are different types of learners, right? You know, we talk about it very loosely, but the fact is that you have different types of learners at every age. So as a 13-year-old, your child is possibly the kind of child who enjoys his space, who obviously has a greater sense of responsibility, speed and pace, right? So while we have some learners who are visual, some who are auditory, some who work best on a regimented method, I think there are a lot of learners who are, especially in the pre-teen, teenage group, who are enjoying this flexibility. And I think there is no harm in it. And, you know, children will really enjoy this. There are some children who are enjoying it. And I would tell Mala that let him enjoy it as long as he's enjoying it. And, you know, yes, when he gets back to school, he, you know, I think there will be appreciation. I think at the end of all of this, all of us are going to appreciate everything around us a lot more. We are going to, you know, take greater value in our teachers, in our classrooms, in our homes that we have. And I think we're also going to appreciate that children learn in different styles. And we are nobody to push a particular kind of style. As facilitators, as parents, as teachers, our job is to lay out the platter, and the responsible children or the faster ones will grasp quickly what suits them, and the slower ones we will handhold. We will have to handhold a little more, and till they identify what works best for them. And I think this is a golden period for all of us to discover.
There is another interesting question.
Somebody, yeah, I want to take what Mr. Rajesh Malhotra says, that, you know, a lot of this is easier said than done, given all kinds of expectations. I agree with you completely. And, you know, as teachers, as educators, as a parenting coach myself, what I will say is all of us are probably sharing information based on certain best practices which are tried by homeschooling experts. For example, what I told you about scheduling, what I told you about creating a routine, about different types of learner resources to kind of teach children. Or even if I recommend to parents that 1 hour a day, switch off your laptops and phones, get off your work and be with them. These are all best practices with the parent. It is not easy. I acknowledge that. I'm also a parent of 2 very young children. None of this is easy. None of us wanted a lockdown. But we are trying to see, you know, can we learn from other people? Can we learn from other people's experiences? Can we learn from how homeschooling experts have done it, right? So that is you know, I think the intent of all of these webinars that all of us are attending, whether it is on the business side or on any other side, it is about information sharing. And obviously, none of this can be a copy-paste into your own life or into your own, you know, the way your family is constructed. You will need to pick and choose. Maybe out of this whole thing, 1 point might have struck you. So maybe you take that 1 point and try and see. Tomorrow, out of another discussion or something you read, something else might strike you. So all of us are kind of, you know, picking up these little bits and trying to implement and see what works best for us. I think that's the intent.
Fantastic. There is a question by Sukhjit Kaur. She has asked that how to handle hyperactive kids.
Yeah. Yes. I think hyperactivity is a birthright of children. And so hyperactive children are, so see, hyperactive again, you know, I think there is a condition called, you know, attention deficit hyperactive disorder. And there is also the way we use it in a very lay method, in a lay way, when we say our children are hyperactive. So it's very important for us as parents to differentiate. If we mean that our children have a lot of energy, if our children are, you know, physically very active, we need to try and figure out how to vent that energy and channelize that energy. It's very important, because if that is not done, what it could result is in destructive mentality. Because a child who doesn't, you know, that energy has to be vented at the end of the day. So like I recommended, if you can, you know, I don't know how old the child is, but whatever the age, whether you can do Surya Namaskars at home, skipping at home, running up and down staircases if possible, in the park, whatever is possible, if energy, or just, you know, stationary jumping. There are so many beautiful videos on home workouts, you know, home workouts. So if you can do that, that will be very good. And if there are, you know, another issue, I've not read the question, But, special children. So if it is an attention deficit or an ADHD, if there is autism, if there's dyslexia, if there are known conditions, or if you're slowly discovering any of these conditions, I would recommend you seek out an expert and maybe fix up a video appointment or a call and try and see how, this can be done, what kind of guidance they can give you. Because there will be different best practices and different advisories which will go for special children in terms of how they should be handled during a lockdown.
Right. There is a question by Usha Ishwaran. She has asked that, can you talk in brief about different kinds of parenting with examples and its consequences?
All right. So, in fact, what's very interesting is I'm going to show you a picture. And I think, okay. So I have a screen which shows here the different types of parents during lockdown. And I will urge parents to see what kind of parent they are. So the first kind is really the authoritative and supportive parent. So the ideal, what we call the ideal parent, where you are clear what you want of the child, you have communicated the clarity and the expectation to your child, and you are also able to spend the time and support them. And if it's getting too much for them, you are also kind of modulating. That is called the supportive parent. The second kind of parents are the authoritarian, right? Result pura chahiye. We want everything done, but we don't have the time and we are not going to get involved. That is very clearly a second style of parenting, which a lot of parents might fall, it is never intended, but this could be. So these are all for introspection. It's just for you to see. Hi, you expect the world out of your child, but you're really not there for them to invest in the child and to try and do the activity. The third type is a relaxed and permissive, right? So, some things are possible, some things are not possible. Let's decide, let's take it easy. That's a fourth style of parenting, which general happiness, and parents are not pushy. They're not bothered about, the academic loss, or, it's an easygoing, chilled out style. And the fourth one is really the uninvolved, the negligent. So this is actually different from the authoritarian, is that they don't even have any expectation of the child. You do whatever I'm doing. I don't even expect anything out of you. So the point is, we need to definitely stay clear of the fourth category. We don't want to fall into this trap where the child has no clue what is expected. We have not told them. We are in our own world. Mom and dad are busy with running the house and the office stuff, and the child is just left loose. That, if we say, is a complete no-no. The remaining three, I would actually say all of us, different parts of the day, become all three. It is impossible for any parent to be completely one type, right? Sometimes you're relaxed, sometimes you're like, oh, chalo, kar lo, whatever. Sometimes you're like, I expect this, finish it. Sometimes you're sitting with the child. So I think a child also understands, and there's a lot of expectation. There's a lot of independence that is created at the end of this entire thing. That, we are able to, child also at the end of all of this, Dr. Ravi, what we don't want is an independent child who knew how to finish homework, now wants the parent to sit with them 24/7. So I think it's important to sometimes be authoritarian and say, okay, listen, I'm coming back in half an hour. I'm going to do a task and come back. You finish all this and be ready by the time I come back. Some things which are difficult, you sit with them and take a coaching kind of style. So if that's answered the question, I happen to have this style. It's a very common question that I get in a lot of webinars. Yeah, so that's what I would say.
This was a really great slide. I think the most important slide of the panel. There's a question by Usha that I would like to teach some basic concepts using analogies. Kindly suggest good links where we can get analogies for basic science concepts.
I'm not sure. An analogy is okay. I mean, I presume she means teaching a science concept at home, maybe.
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't have it ready right now, but I would suggest, you know, maybe on YouTube you look for science experiments at home, science experiments to do at home, and you know, using household ingredients, and you will be able to see the experiment and also see what is the underlying principle or the theory. So, you know, for example, very simply, if it is about weights of different liquids, so you take a bottle and, you know, if you have oil and you have liquid detergent, you have water. So the underlying principle is really density and weight of liquids, but it is using household kitchen material. So I was actually doing some science experiments with my daughter yesterday, but I also just Googled it and I found a lot of for children.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
I'm going
So,
to drop in the chat, I'm going to drop the name of my YouTube channel here, Get Set
yes.
Parent with Pallavi. I would, you know, request everybody here on this chat that we've had today to log on to YouTube, to go to Get Set Parent with Pallavi and subscribe to the channel. Also, you can like my Facebook page. I'm going to open another slide while we continue the discussion,
Yes. Yes.
so
Yes.
that you can, you know, just, I'm going to share that slide with you. Okay, is it, I'm not able to share the screen for some reason. Is my screen already shared?
No, 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 no.
Okay, okay, I'm going to try and share the screen. Okay, 1 second. Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. I'm going to just open this screen where go to my YouTube channel, Facebook page and Instagram.
But I want to thank all the audience for a great session, lot of questions, and I request you all to follow the Facebook link which I have provided on the chat, and follow the Facebook link of ILETS, and you can see a good webinar daily in this lockdown situation from ILETS. And if you like this video, please like and share it on your Facebook wall. This video will also be available on the YouTube channel of ILETS. With this, I thank you all, and we will close the session here. Namaskar. Thank you so much.